Welcome back for Game 5, RNG versus Cloud9. This is our first look at one of the favorites to win all of Worlds, the LPL champions who have been building up heat throughout the entire year of 2018.
And it's a very simple storyline. There has never been a team to run all the way through a calendar year and win every tournament they entered. SK Telecom so close in 2015, but not winning MSI famously. Here we are in 2018, and RNG, this is the last item on the docket.
And I think a lot of people look at RNG and say, you know what? They are one of the favorites to win the entire thing. It's no longer a bad thing to say a non-Korean team can actually win Worlds. We tried to do this back in 2015 when we hyped up teams like LGD, EDG as well, and it completely failed. But RNG, because they've already shown so many great things during the year, and because they have the best player in the world right now in Uzi, we can safely say they are heavy favorites.
I mean, this team has already done so much. Like you said, they've won everything they've participated in so far in 2018.
And Uzi even more than that, right? Asian games for Uzi as well. If you look back to last year, include All-Star, that's another thing that you can add to the docket. So when it comes to RNG, it's a story. And when it comes to the most famous player in the world, it is as well.
And we're getting into the team introductions now. As we'll be meeting the players taking to the stage, it's RNG first.
And RNG will be running with Karsa in their first game, so no sign of MLXG. You never know if the madman might hit the rift. They're going for the control jungler in game number 1.
And I gotta say, I like this. I prefer to see Karsa on this lineup. I think he's an amazing jungler, one of the very best we have in the world. And I think he's really shown now, once he started to play a lot, you know, in playoffs in Spring Split, and he played in the MSI final. We had a great performance when they took down Kingzone. He's kind of taken over the starting spot in the Summer Split, and he's just a jungler that is so good at playing around his lanes.
And this team is comprised, all 5 players actually made the summer vote for the all-pro teams for the LPL. If you look across the roles, it was Letme and Xiaohu in the solo lanes that ended up being voted onto the 3rd all-pro team, Karsa and Uzi at jungle and AD carry respectively that made it onto the 2nd all-pro teams, and Ming, their support, who made it onto that 1st all-pro team. Everybody in the league respects how good these guys are.
And no one's lost in the shuffle. You look at someone like Ming being introduced now, and this guy is just as respected as the last support for RNG, which was, of course, Mata. Now on KT roster, he's been able to lead the way on some picks. They do come in one of the top 3 big favorites for me, but their opponents, they really had to work to get here.
Absolutely. Cloud9 fighting through the play-ins. They managed to get through the challenges ahead of them there, but now they have to fight through the main event. This is a team that, remember, last year when they played through play-ins, did not drop a single game, but this year went to the full best of 5 games against Gambit Esports.
And I'm already struck by their starting lineup today. Not about Licorice, of course. He's been undisputed in the top lane, but look who's starting in the jungle. The same player who, when it came to those elimination games against Gambit, they relied on. It isn't Blabber, who was monopolizing that support spot for most of the season. It's not, of course, Golden Glue is not available in the mid lane. It's Jensen and Svenskeren, the more experienced of the players who actually are required for game number 1.
And for those who do not know, the way Cloud9 utilizes this jungle switch out is the fact that Blabber is the aggressive jungler. You're going to see him on the carries. You're going to see him invading early on. You're going to see them building a team potentially around him, with Jensen being on more supportive mid lane picks. When Svenskeren's in the mix, it's going to be tankier. It's going to be more of a team play champion.
But still, I think we could see some firework Lee Sin plays. I don't think Ambition Haro. I don't think this is going to be purely farming Sejuani here coming through from Svenskeren. So there's definitely going to be at least an element of pulling back, whereas Blabber, he only knows to jam and accelerate.
Blabber is go all in all the time.
He wouldn't be a great poker player. He'd really crash out fast.
But here's the thing with Cloud9. If we zoom away from just the jungle position and we look at play-ins, we actually had the same story for G2 last game. We were like, there are so many question marks after all the games they got to play there in the group stage of play-ins, then in their best of 5 against Gambit. And honestly, looked very, very shaky in a lot of the games. A lot of big question marks regarding their overall level, because it wasn't just one game. It was 11 games of just really back and forth and no real clean wins for C9. But G2 just proved last game that you can change a lot in a couple of days. You can use the planes to realize what issues you have and maybe find a fix before the World's group stage.
And both for analysts and fans, you do zoom in on the most recent game. You're only as good as your last Alistar poll, the last game you played. And if that's Cloud9's play-ins, you come in with a lot of pause. But like you say, there was that heart murmur for G2 where they played much above their play-ins level in the game against FLICKR. And I'm struck by Cloud9, the back half of the regular season. Cloud9 3-0ing TSM. There are counterpoints, but that should tell you there is a counterpoint performance here for Cloud9 that they could look to execute.
And just as we said, G2 had their work cut out for them. They were up against a tough opponent in their first game of main stage groups in the Afrika Freaks. Let's not pretend like RNG isn't a very difficult opponent as well. Saying this is one of the favorite teams to win the entire competition means you've got a statement to make going up against them if you're Cloud9 right now.
When you're playing RNG, there's always the worry that if the game hasn't ended, and I'm talking the next exploding, make sure Uzi doesn't have items, because Uzi in the late game is a win condition in and of himself.
And I've seen, specifically because we've seen so much of this champion, I have to bring this up. Uzi specifically on Karsa, if we see that pick, some of his games seem like he is just an AI from 1,000 years in the future made to play Karsa. He is so damn good on this champion.
I mean, you give the best late game AD carry right now to the best player at playing late game team fights, you're probably gonna get a really good Karsa performance.
But the insane thing is, if you do ban away the Karsa, you know he has the Xayah, the Vayne situationally to pair up with it. And if you do give him the Karsa, at least it extends that early game window where you can make RNG bleed. They are not immortal in the early game. So a lot of teams, they leave it open, they take, and it just, you see the Draven ban coming in here. Cloud9 have shown it. You can try to beat up on Karsa early and find a big enough lead to actually take away a best of one.
Like seeing the respectful ban come out there from RNG to try to shut that strategy down a little bit. Akali will be banned away, the final ban here for Cloud9, along with Tahm Kench and Irelia. Brahmin Aatrox also banned out by RNG as they first picked the Alistar.
And I like the first pick here because one, they ban away Braum, which is the other big pick for Zeyzal down the bottom lane. But what they also do is they say, okay, if you want to Xayah Rakan, we can play Alistar against that just fine. If you want to take Karsa here, you don't get Karsa Alistar, which is the greatest combination you can get for Karsa specifically. So they're trying to deny a lot just by the first support pick.
And with the Aatrox first ban, you might think, okay, now there's nothing to contest the Urgot. However, this is RNG. Letme will usually be on a top lane tank like the Ornn and Sion. Both are available to be first rounded. So you look over the side of C9, they'll still feel good about the Urgot, but they're certainly thinking about prizing away the Karsa, because if you leave it open, you know what's coming in from RNG.
And if it's get locked in here, I actually want to see with RNG's AD carry pick, Uzi still plays Caitlyn and can use that to try and be a lane bully, but I think it's risky.
I think it's a trap, honestly. I know the theory. You think about Caitlyn and Morgana beating Xayah Rakan back in spring season in NA.
Yeah.
Every time I've seen Caitlyn locked in into the matchup, it's done okay in the early game. It hasn't been able to punish enough, and eventually the Karsa comes online. So I've seen teams not be able to recreate the 2017 Worlds meta, where fast push Caitlyn was dominating against Ardent Sensor. We'll see what RNG decide, though. I think the Xayah is here, because to me, Uzi's Xayah is what has provoked people from the LCK to even consider the champion. Everyone ditched it, and then Uzi reminded people, this is a pretty beast champion.
Yeah, that's kind of thing. We had periods during the summer split where if you didn't have Rakan, you wouldn't really want to play Xayah because you had to kind of combine the two. But then Uzi kept showing, no, you can just take Xayah alone. There's actually so many other supports she works well with, and she's just so strong individually. So it is the expected pick coming in from him, and it's very standard for RNG at first here.
And Cloud9 will decide to pick up the other half of the Lovers duo, locking in the Rakan for themselves. They're in the bottom lane, so you've got engaged potential here from both supports as we head into the second part of the ban.
It is a losing 2v2 matchup, though, without some load of jungle assistance turning things. The Karsa Rakan is very nice in the late game, but certainly won't be helpful for Sneaky and Zeyzal, who are going to have a very fun laning phase, you'd have to say, against Uzi and Ming.
Specifically for Zeyzal, this guy who's one of the rookies on Cloud9, this guy who, you mentioned banning away his Braum, that is his most played champion by far. His second most played, actually the Alistar. The Rakan, in terms of summer, all the way down there at 2 picks. So not a lot of experience on this champion, especially going up against a player the caliber of Uzi. It will be difficult for Cloud9's bottom lane.
Yeah, and this is where, as a support, you are doing this for your team and not for your lane. You're simply saying we have an Urgot already. If he's going top lane, we most likely need some engage from our support, and Rakan is still one of the best engage options. So you end up kind of sacrificing a bit of your own laning phase to help the rest of the team.
Now, let's think about the fact that RNG, who we said, they'll just take a tank into the Urgot, they've lost both of the prototypes here. We see Ornn banned. We see also the Sion banned. Some teams would look to something like a Maokai as a bit of a throwback. The Cho'Gath is another one to consider. Doesn't provide the same engage options, though, to get the fight on command, but maybe Alistar.
Oh,
that's the straight up Evelynn, guys.
Okay. RNG bans out the Xinjiao and the Nocturne. They're saying, all right, let's keep some of the carry junglers away from Summoner's Rift this time. And Cloud9 decide to spice things up. We said we looked at this team for innovation. That is one of their win conditions against RNG. And Evelynn is how they'll go about doing it.
And I'm really thinking about something like Ryze then coming in at the end here for Jensen, because when you have Evelynn, if you draft strong split push compositions, Evelynn are so hard to deal with because you don't 100% know where she is. She's hard to track, and she appears in these side lanes and just destroys you.
But Deficio, what about if you have a team that can go everywhere at once, like the Galio Taliyah that have been put together on the side of RNG? They don't want to be assassinated in the mid lanes. The Galio makes a lot of sense, can take Aftershock and be very happy here. C9, you think back to all the times they've shaped the meta at Worlds. What about that famous Tristana and Veigar they put together at 2015 Worlds where they let the meta? How about some more globals? This would be a top lane Shen.
And locking Shen in. This is the most RNG comp that you can imagine when you think about how many resources they put into Uzi. This is the single most invested in player of any player at Worlds. They love putting so much into this guy and trusting him to carry. And when jungler, mid laner, and top laner can all be at your beck and call at a moment's notice, you're ready to go.
But the thing is, when you deal with this comp, and we get the Ryze we just highlighted before that we wanted to see, when you deal with a 1-3-1 comp and an Evelynn, Taliyah and Galio globals do not cover the entire map. So if you are split up in lanes and you have push coming in from C9 with Jensen and Licorice, it's actually going to be hard for RNG to utilize their globals properly, and you can still really get punished by split push.
And you see Reaper getting his last words to him. What he should tell the team is, when those ults are up, punishing, there's long windows after you use the Hero's Entrance and the Shen ultimate, where Evelynn is still invisible, and you don't have the get out of jail free cards those defensive ults can provide. So there's certainly windows for C9 to look to box. It is a boxing match where RNG comes in favorites, but it could be more competitive than at first glance.
Exactly. The answer if you're RNG is actually not to think too much about using globals to help that one guy in the side lane. Instead, use your globals towards mid lane and just run at Sneaky, who's sitting there trying to wave clear. Alistar engaged with the Galio follow-up. That will kill most AD carries, and RNG have the tools to constantly force the team fight because they don't want to deal too much with this split push.
And forcing the team fight, I mean, this is RNG. This is a team that is one of the best, if not the single best team fighting team in the world. They make things happen in those situations. I respect Cloud9 for drafting this comp specifically to try to avoid that. Go 1-3-1, use the Evelynn, set up picks. Don't team fight against Uzi with this much protection. But if RNG can make their plan happen, it will be hard to stand against it for Cloud9.
As if this game is an ordered one, Evelynn won't be able to find inroads, but if things start to go and the map tends to be spread, that's where Evelynn can profit.
We're on to Summoner's Rift now. It's game number 5 of the day. Cloud9 in the red, running out of the base now on your screen, going up against RNG in the blue, one of the favorite teams coming into the main stage competition here at Worlds 2018, as they'll meet in the middle as per usual, just drawing those battle lines.
And let's just zoom in at Svenskeren, on Svenskeren and his Evelynn pick right here. We actually got to see it once during the European playoffs. Maxlord tried to pull it out. Early game, it doesn't do anything.
No.
You need your level 6, first of all, before you actually get any sort of useful tools like your ulti and your stealth coming in. And your early ganking power is just not that strong, but you are an extremely strong scaling jungler. You get insane amount of burst damage in the late game with the full AP build. And she's one of these junglers in solo queue that are super annoying because if she gets a couple of kills, she starts one-shotting your backline. And that's what we look for. It's chaos if you are C9. It's an Urgot in the middle of everyone. It's a flanking Evelynn destroying Uzi.
an update about the Evelynn pick coming out from Svenskeren. Did play it one time during the summer split. Had a KDA of 1.0. The game was a loss to the Golden Guardians when Cloud9 was in their rough part of the split. But as you mentioned earlier, Papa Smithy, they had a massive transformation in terms of how well they were playing throughout summer. And now that they've managed to get things together, they seem like an entirely different team. We'll see if the pick seems entirely different.
And I think the truth is really onto the side of what Deficio was alluding to, in that the game looks like solo queue. Evelynn is going to be a very profitable pick, but if it just becomes safe wave, if it just becomes the need to flank such an impressively big front line from RNG, access to Uzi seems impossible as the game goes on, because he's going to be bringing plenty of friends along wherever he goes.
And this is the power of unique picks and best of one. You can really try and surprise the other teams. We just had Heimerdinger last game from Yanen. FLICKR didn't know what to do against it. The Evelynn pick can try and do somewhat the same here for C9, where that is actually what stops RNG from playing their normal style, stops RNG from getting to big late game team fights, and then C9 will not have a chance. Here in the early game, Karsa invades, and he knows he's Taliyah. Enemy is an Evelynn. There is absolutely no way Svenskeren can actually kill Karsa right now.
You can't lose that. You're not going to lose that with the Taliyah, so invade is the easy call there, as Svenskeren will move into the enemy jungle, likely predicting the fact that Taliyah will not be afraid of finding him at all, instead decides to steal the blue buff back, as Ming finds some damage down onto Sneaky here in the bottom lane. And as expected, it's Cloud9 on the back foot in bottom lane early, as Karsa's going to be spotted out here. Could be in some danger to smite the Gromp away, but now the cavalry has arrived here. RNG makes sure they can get their jungler out. Karsa forced to blow the flash as he escapes there, but it was the ignite and flash from Sneaky, and Zeyzal expended as well.
Some fun trading places action happening there as Karsa wanted to flash towards his duo. However, he trades flashes with the enemy Kaisa, and that means it's going to be so hard for Sneaky to walk up. There's not just feathers you have to respect, it's a flash headbutt pull from Ming as well. So there's actually very little terrain where Sneaky can happily walk up unless he's actually in turret range on his defensive side of the lane.
This is one of those situations Cloud9 will become very familiar with the sights, smells, and general atmosphere underneath their turret. Svenskeren moves towards mid lane to try to set something up onto Xiaohu, but
this one thing he wants to show is love.
Yeah,
just put the heart up there.
Charm doesn't really do much if you don't have time to proc the second part of it there after setting the mark down, so that won't do a whole lot just yet. As Licorice tries to go in onto Letme here early, gets a good trade onto that Shen with the Urgot, and that's what we want to see out of Licorice. This is a guy who has been very reliable for Cloud9 throughout a split where they swapped out everybody else on the roster at least once. He's been the rock for this team, and they've put a lot of faith in him.
I mean, he's the NA hope in the top lane, 100%. He's had a great year so far. He's only getting better and better while still being so young. Great to see him here at Worlds, but it really fits the narrative of the two top laners that we actually get Urgot, more of a carry top for Licorice, and we get Shen, who's just gonna sit there and get shot in the face 24/7 and wait for Uzi to say, come ult me now, by the way, and then Letme will go down to that bottom lane and make something happen with his team.
But after absorbing the bans, they gave up a champion that can match the wave clear and not die. They only get the secondary part here. As he does get pushed in, he has very little lane priority, and it does mean Evelynn can play top side of the map and have very little worries about Letme being there, short of investing his entire ultimate to make it happen. And if he ults out, the turret damage is coming in from Licorice.
Well, Licorice will maintain that very slight CS lead there in the top lane. As you can check throughout the other lanes, it's also small leads going the way of RNG, though, as Cloud9 overall has just a very small edge in terms of the overall economy here in the early game.
Yeah, and this is very expected also when you watch RNG, especially with Karsa. It's not the all-in aggression that a couple of years ago we used to see from them, where it was just constant fighting, trying to win every lane. And then with MLXG just constantly invading the enemy jungler for no reason whatsoever. But with Karsa and with the current RNG, they know their late game is one of the best, if not the best in the world. So they can just take it a bit slower, play around Uzi's lane, and all in.
Bottom side, it's Sneaky in some trouble. No flash available means he is gone. And first blood goes over to RNG, and it goes to Uzi.
Perfect illustration of what we mentioned is Licorice looking for this.
Licorice wants to grab the solo kill and into the ground. grinder you go. He responds across the map.
Battle lines are drawn. Bot side, it's all China. It's all RNG. Top side, the NA hopeful Licorice picks up the solo kill. An extension of our expectations. Nice table setting for the first 6 minutes of the game.
It fits in so well. Everything we expect. RNG always focusing on getting Uzi ahead. He's actually doing it just with Ming in the 2v2. Karsa didn't get an assist when he did show up because, of course, Sneaky lost that flash much earlier. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, well, these guys are just farming and doing nothing at the moment. They're kind of waiting for something to happen where they can join.
They both have the ability to join in with the ultimates there as well. Jensen and Xiaohu now with those level 6s up means that the ultis are online to participate in the fights if they find that chance. But Licorice on the solo kill with this Urgot. He got Rookie of the Split for a reason, doing work here for his team, making sure that they manage to get an answer after they lose their AD carry in the bottom lane.
Now let's talk about the AD carry for a moment. He has to go back to laning in the bot side. We're gonna get some replays here on your screen. This is Sneaky walking up, and he doesn't play around the feathers with his flash down, so he just straight up dies. That part pretty straightforward. We talked about how there were very few places he could stand in lane. This is Licorice getting a level 6 advantage. Doesn't expect the flash in. Be it beyond death. One thing I want to get to, though, and I want to get your idea on this, Martin Viciio. What about just sending Sneaky topside to try to crash down Shen's turret? He doesn't do so well there, and Sneaky's in trouble.
Speaking of crashing down, it's Xiaohu with a surprise delivery of pain for Sneaky. RNG find themselves kill number 2.
At some point, you're gonna probably have to do it, or you just lose bot lane turret for nothing. But you obviously want to abuse the 1v1 lane for Licorice as long as possible as well. So I feel like at this point, Sneaky and Zeyzal might just have to suck it up.
Thought about attacking that global as mid lane.
Jensen stopping Xiaohu from getting himself away. Xiaohu has flash available here now. RNG bringing in some backup with Karsa. They'll get themselves away for now. The charm comes out. Xiaohu going to be in some trouble. Nearly executed. Damage comes down, but it's not going to be enough. Tragedy for Cloud9 as they can't find the first kill. But Ming's going to be the consolation prize. Rack up number 2 for Licorice.
I like these group up plays from the side of Cloud9. Maybe attack Shen and keep yourself away from Sneaky laning without that flash. They didn't do that. They go down, but they make the proactive play in mid lane. Galio doesn't go down, but Ming can't spare the blushes of his team.
And we need more top lane or mid lane and top lane action from C9's side, because they will lose this bot lane turret very soon. There's an Infernal Drake as well for RNG to take, but this is important. They obviously want more than just a single kill, but they're winning the skirmish here. They get the ulti from Karsa as well. We see the Shen around mid lane. Ming is here, like everyone from RNG except for Uzi are trying to win the skirmish, but they are losing it. And the fact that Urgot is the one picking up the kills, he can get his Black Cleaver fairly quickly. Shen will not be able to do a damn thing.
They need this Urgot to be so far ahead because bottom lane just keeps finding trouble after trouble. And now Uzi's got himself his second kill of the game on this side.
Moment you accept that invitation to take the Rakan, this reality sets on you. It's 3 kill involvements already for Uzi, and Sneaky's fast down again. The bot lane is done.
Yeah, and we talked about how C9 are sacrificing the bottom lane, especially by trying to bring more engage to the table with Rakan. But what's happening is Sneaky's just getting hit by feathers all the time. It sets it up so easily for Ming as well to all in. 0-3. Uzi sits with 2 kills on his side. He's already taken down the turret. He's gonna get Infernal Drake. Licorice, he's trying his best, but man, he's left alone.
Uzi has almost doubled Sneaky's CS 10 minutes into the game. It's 92-56. Sneaky has died all 3 deaths of Cloud9 so far. It's so rough for him in this early game. And on a champion like Karsa that needs time to scale up, he might not have that time if Uzi keeps going off like
Watch this play. 3 feathers on the ground, 4. Zeyzal and Sneaky walk on top of each other and get double stunned there. That's just unacceptable, really, in the 2v2. You were talking about the greed of Cloud9 making more plays while the globals are on cooldown. They're still on cooldown, and yet we saw a kill come down in bot lane for the side of RNG.
We saw the Xayah and Rakan, the lovers duo, get broken up in Champion Select. Somebody always comes out on top, seeming like they're in better shape every time a couple breaks up. And right now, Xayah is living the good life.
Xayah got the house and everything.
Oh, yeah,
Xayah got the house, the dog,
bad.
the car, everything. Rakan's just over here hanging out in his bachelor pad, wondering what happened. The Sneaky will be on recovery for a long time throughout this one. RNG happy with the condition of their AD carry so far. Remember, that's the win condition. That's who's got to be protected.
Good news. Uzi is now top lane and Sneaky's bot lane. So
Okay.
he will not die to Uzi for
Okay.
at least a couple of minutes. Let's see what can happen up here. C9 with the very strong Urgot. I don't know. Yeah, Svenskeren is around.
Bad news, though. Seems like Karsa got the Storm Razor in the divorce, and there's nothing on the other side. For Sneaky, he's not there, of course. He's
So
walking
Taliyah
up,
got
though.
the Storm Razor.
Yes.
Yeah, Taliyah got the Storm Razor.
She got the Storm Razor. She's
Taliyah
doing
also
real good.
kept all the friends because Shen ulti and Galio ulti is now available. They're also going to join the party if anything is happening. So it's going to be pretty rough to shut down Uzi at this point. You actually want to get Licorice in the 1v1 lane against Letme again. But then they're losing Rift Health if they do that. So it's just super rough.
They're wasting his time as well. Licorice with the 2 kills is milling around the map because he wants to find only one person. RNG happy to play in multiples. We see the push through mid lane. Here is Licorice, though. They're trying something.
Xiaohu tries to get himself away, is going to be charmed up. They've already found the Urgot ulti, take him down to 25%, and he's going to be grinded up yet again. Licorice goes on a killing spree and tries to keep Cloud9 going even further.
It keeps happening. C9 finding kills around the mid lane. Ming is behind them. He's all alone at the moment, just zoning them away. But Shen ulti is available in case something happens. Meanwhile, Sneaky is actually getting quite some time to just push in the bottom lane.
And Xayah is solo taking down another turret. The gold numbers here for Uzi versus Sneaky are going to be very one-sided. Karsa comes to mid lane. He has that Rift Arrow, won't be plonking it down just yet. I do like the fact that C9 are trying things. We already set the table earlier and said this eventually becomes a teamfight comp for RNG. Eventually it's much earlier when Uzi is this big and has so much gold, and C9 just have to keep hitting and hoping at 12 minutes into the game.
Svenskeren wisely staying the hell away from his red buff there, recognizing that RNG had control over that quadrant of the map and were likely waiting, having already stolen it. They were, so he keeps himself out of that kind of danger for now, but it's still a 2,000 gold lead for RNG, despite the kills being even. They've still got the Infernal Drake there for the scaling. They've still got the 2 turrets to 0 advantage in terms of overall map control with that Rift Herald in Karsa's inventory. We said we looked at the early game as a point that Cloud9 could try to exploit and take over to find a win here against RNG, but so far, the early game has gone the way of the LPL representative.
Yeah, and of course now with C9's composition, we said this in draft as well, like they are looking to become split pushers with Ryze and with the Urgot, and you have Evelynn always hiding towards one of the side lanes and surprising an RNG member when he's trying to farm maybe under his turret or trying to push out a lane. The problem is, now that you're losing so hard, 80 carry versus 80 carry, you're never getting mid lane control if you're C9, and that's actually one of the most important things. If you want to split push, you must control mid, so the enemy team can't just move down behind you and kill your split pushers.
And even simpler, you give up a Rift Herald, you give up Drake control, and then Evelynn is reacting to things. She's not making things happen. She's trying to spare blushes. She's now just trying to shadow Sneaky in the top side as he finally finds some solo time.
And Evelynn is just traditionally one of these champions, gentlemen, that feels so much weaker when she's on the back foot. When you're not constantly making your opponents guess, oh, where is she? Oh, we're afraid. And now she's going to be caught out and immediately just destroyed by Ming and Karsa together. The Evelynn, not a champion that can survive that sort of an ambush.
I mean, you're hitting the point in the game already where you can't go into the river because you don't have anyone mid lane. Like, at any point, C9 will just sit with no one there, and RNG will have jungler, support, and AD carry. They're going bot lane.
Oh, they're trying to collapse now on the rest of Cloud9. Good escape there, using the Realm Warp. Jensen, quick thinking, gets him and Licorice away.
Licorice flashes into the Realm Warp to get the escape. A single flash wasn't going to be enough. 4 members coming to take him down. So nice creative play there, but it doesn't get them anything. It just spares losing something further to RNG.
One thing I want to point out that I'm seeing in the inventories right now, an early stopwatch for Licorice. He wants to make sure he can go into these fights, activate the Purge, fire off as many shotgun knees as he can get, and still keep himself alive. He recognizes he is so critical for Cloud9 to win any sort of an engagement at this point in time that he needs to just maximize any chance he can get for that damage, because RNG is frightening. QSS also on to Uzi. Remember, if you pop that after the Urgot chains have already attached to you, not when the harpoon is stuck in your butt, but once you've got the chains, that means that you will avoid the execution.
You paint a beautiful picture there, Captain.
I'm all about the mental imagery, my friend. That is where Cloud9 are trying to find themselves a victory. Somehow get their way onto Uzi, but there's no way to do that, so you've got to play the split push game, like you already mentioned.
Exactly, and I think we should highlight a difference in terms of top lane split pushers compared to last game where we had the Camille from Wonder's side. Camille was the one who could destroy turrets very quickly and just kind of bulldoze down 2 to 3 objectives, and if you leave her alone, you might lose an inhib. Urgot is a much slower turret taker. Like, he's a very strong 1v1 duelist, and he's gonna be very good when Evelynn shows up as well to set up, you know, a knockback into a kill. But it's not the same where if you leave him alone in the side lane, he will take your entire base.
It is still a continuum, though. You have Camille right at the top. You do have Urgot above the middle because his W allows him to shred turrets, so he's not a pure tank, but he doesn't itemize further AD than just the Black Cleaver. So yes, compared to the Camille, the pace expectation there is small. And when it comes to map control, feels like RNG control. Both neutrals, the river area has already been shown to be somewhere that they also have earned a lot of advantages. Sneaky finally has found the Stormrazor, but RNG are just rotating around the Urgot, just like we suggested C9 should rotate around the Shen.
RNG grouped up as 4 here. They've got their Galio holding the top side of the map while they push into the tier 2 bottom. Another minion wave and not enough Cloud9 members nearby means they're able to secure this one for themselves. Cloud9 investing into maybe making something happen topside, but RNG says, okay, invest into topside. Nice inhibitor turret. They will back away now, since Cloud9 is going to respond to that. Jensen will make his way back towards the base, but Cloud9 just seems to be a step behind.
Well, it's hard, right? When you lose mid lane,
yes,
or the mid lane now, obviously you didn't lose the laning phase in mid, but you've lost control of the mid lane after laning phase ended because Ming and Uzi are so far ahead and they have these globals to back them up. So whenever Licorice tries to push out in his lane, he will see 3 members from RNG leave the mid lane, move towards his side, and he will have to back away like we just saw here.
And you just see the fact that Uzi is escorted wherever he goes. I'd like to get those minions. Here comes 2 friends next to him, and someone like Galio or Shen holding down the fort, a much tankier person for Svenskeren to potentially attack. So we just see Svenskeren watching Uzi take down objectives, hit turrets, and never actually be able to open up like those nice picks he made in the mid lane earlier.
And this is what we talked about with RNG and how many resources they put into this guy. Resources doesn't just mean gold. It means the time and attention of everyone else on your team. He is the VIP. Everybody else is Secret Service. What's that, Mr. Uzi? No problem, Mr. Uzi. We'll take care of it for you. No problem whatsoever.
This is the player, however, we keep mentioning. Licorice in his side lane with Svenskeren coming in from a flank to try and back him up. You will get a ton of damage on the turret now. You have minions as well to back you up. And there is no Baron alive yet. That's going to be the objective RNG will use to force team fights. But it's not here, so you can try and get a kill and a bot lane turret.
RNG trying to just muscle down this mid lane tier 2. Uzi's got the protection of Karsa and Ming nearby, not really worried about a whole lot of anything. Tier 2 will fall there. That's turret number 5 for the side of RNG, as Cloud9 will look to make something happen here on the bottom side of the map. Svenskeren and Licorice working together, looking to take down Letme. They're going to need some more damage to do it. Xiaohu wants to go in, find some kind of a flash into a taunt, but the escape from Svenskeren, predicting that would come forward, gets himself out. No kill to be found for C9.
I love how RNG are making proactive plays, though. They sense that Evelynn's bot lane push through the mid. They get the teleport in to stop there being a turret dive, and they, as a 3-man, push the top side. So they are still reacting to what Cloud9 wants to do, and then one-upping them in mid and then top lane, and it means they grow their gold lead, and C9 can't stick any of their plays.
I like the fact that Cloud9 is trying to play around Licorice. I like the fact that they're trying to set him up because they know that's what they have to do at this point. That's really the only chance. But the response from RNG is on point. They're not allowing that advantage to be played to any real game for the side of Cloud9. And it's put them in a spot where their lead does nothing but steadily grow, almost up to 5,000 gold now.
And we're still waiting for Baron. Like, we're only 20 minutes into the game. They've taken down 5 turrets. So now Baron is alive, which means every single time Svenskeren is bottom lane, there's a chance RNG just starts the Baron. And they will be able to force C9 then to TP in with the Urgot and fight 4 versus 5 in a team fight. And that's obviously not going to work if you are C9. So now the most annoying objective is actually alive. If you are trying to play split push, let's see if they can get down at least a turret. Currently sitting with 0, and they need gold so desperately.
And so much gold.
They certainly do, on multiple members, none more so than Sneaky. Short of a second item this far, and look at the gold lead here, 3,500 gold.
5, God bless. That is a massive deficit to have to recover from. Uzi, 2 items fully completed on top of having the QSS already bought as well, and Zeyzal is gone. Karsa makes sure he gets that one. The TP has to be canceled there. There's no way you can go through with that one if you're Cloud9. Tier 2 turret under siege here on the top side. And with this being taken down, RNG has now taken everything from Cloud9 outside of their base. The base siege becomes tougher, but when you're this far ahead, they might just be able to brute force it down. The Weaver's wall comes out, and RNG will rapidly put damage into this tier 3 turret. Svenskeren coming around from the flank, seeing if he can find something. Xiaohu's going to be ready, though, with the Galio ulti to come in and keep these guys safe. He's got the taunt already channeled. Jensen's going to be locked up on that one. Svenskeren has to get himself away. Heroic entrance still looking to keep Uzi alive. They take down Zeyzal, and RNG hasn't lost a man. Jensen's going to be next on the chopping block. Xiaohu goes into the CC. Archangel will not be enough to keep him alive today, and Uzi goes on a killing spree as RNG has 7 kills now, pushing even further into the base. Inhibitor number 1 gone as Cloud9 can do nothing looking on.
Sneaky chunked out as that started meant that even though Zeyzal got backline access, there was no damage to register any kills. We saw FLICKR go down to the Heimerdinger they weren't anticipating. You can't expect RNG to have been thinking about an Evelynn, but they've made the game about what they have and not what the Evelynn provides on the enemy side, and that's where we see plays like this that feel like they can only go one way to RNG.
Exactly, and with all the members around here for the fight, Shen ulti available as well, there's just not enough damage. Not enough members can actually get close enough. Licorice joins the fight at the end when the main engage is already gone and Zeyzal has died, and C9 are just not in a position to actually kill a backline.
Licorice joins the fight at the end, and as the fight breaks out and Zeyzal goes in, Sneaky is sub 300 HP.
Yep.
He cannot go in on the Karsa, he cannot provide the damage, and Cloud9 has no chance in that fight. Down 7,000 gold and an inhibitor now. It's becoming almost impossible for them to make any kind of a play to get back into this, barring a mistake from RNG that they can punish.
And RNG in the late game can once again just rely on team fighting. Like, they don't have to make any fancy plays. What we've seen so far, however, the first pick, Alistar, has been so key here. Ming has played fantastic, and the setups with Alistar plus Taliyah are just so good. If you step forward, you get come up by Alistar into knockback from Karsa, and you're just dead. It's happened multiple times already to C9, and it means they can never face check anything. They have no way of actually getting close without risking dying.
Cloud9 will continue trying to hold the line here against the RNG aggression. But RNG's holding on to everything across the map so far. Svenskeren looking to find some kind of a pincer attack. Will be spotted out there by the control ward. RNG's aware of what Cloud9 is trying to set up, but they're in such a good spot, they don't even care. Weaver's wall comes out. Licorice is going to be the only person walled off by that one. RNG decided to focus on the turret here to start off the fight, backing themselves away. Xiaohu channeling the taunt, making sure Svenskeren can't get in, and RNG will fall back.
Playing around their control ward line, knowing that Evelynn would arrive. They see Jensen top side so they can continue to push. They want to break the base on the bot side. Maybe this next minion wave will be the time.
You've got to be so ready for this if you're Cloud9. As soon as that turret drops, these guys can go in at any point. Licorice on the front line, and Zeyzal looking to make the initiation with the quickness. Going to be taken very low, getting himself away. Svenskeren already having to pop the ult. Ming taken below half. Karsa also having to skirt around the back lines now. RNG have not won the fight just yet, but they take down Jensen. And Uzi goes on a rampage. Licorice has to flash away as well now, too. C9 completely disengaged. No chance to make that fight happen.
They try again, they use the Rakan to engage, but they simply cannot get in and stick to the squishies. Karsa keeps walking out after he drops low, and RNG is waiting for a moment to turn and then kill someone.
And now the knock-up onto Svenskeren, going to be taking him low. Ming's also down critical HP, but Licorice has been shut down. That one's going to be big for RNG, and with Zeyzal also out, this could very well be the end of the game. Nexus turret number 1 under siege. They found the damage onto Sneaky. No chance to even participate in League of Legends this game, as RNG, 25 minutes in, will find the Nexus and find the win.
There's games like this that remind you that RNG are this overwhelming favorite in Worlds 2018. They saw the Evelynn, they dispatched it. Everything they did was ordered around playing to their win condition and minimizing any of the disarray. This was as far away from a solo QS game that Evelynn does well in than you could ever ask for. Beautiful stuff from RNG.
And again, I applaud Cloud9 for trying to play around the RNG strength of team fighting. Set up the 1-3-1, have the Evelynn available in the flanks to make it happen, but RNG had the answer, and they played a cleaner entertaining.
Yeah, and I mean, the bot lane, the difference was just so huge. C9, they went in with a very weak 2v2 lane in the drafting phase, picking a Rakan next to a Karsa. It's never gonna do a thing. And then it's also against Uzi and Ming. Uzi landed so many easy feather setups onto Sneaky that then allowed Ming to combo right after and killing this Karsa 3 times in the early game. Yes, he lost the flash because they tried to stop Karsa from getting a grump, but it was just completely downhill, and that made the big difference. Evelynn never got a chance to actually do anything in the game because the bot lane just lost too hard.
Well, to get more insight on RNG's win, let's head over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. RNG saw a dominant game out of G2, decided to say, we could do you one better, come out here and absolutely smash Cloud9. And so I want to return to an earlier discussion we had. KT, RNG, or the field? Who do you take?
Spawn.
Yeah. I take the field. I'm standing by my show. We haven't seen Gen G play yet, you know, defending world champions. Made it to a couple of finals, but that is a scary lineup.
RNG really showed up today, and I'm still standing by KT. You never overreact after one game of League of Legends, but this was a game.
And here's the thing, RNG, this team is tired. They've gone to every single event. They also attended Asia Games with a big portion of their roster. Uzi stayed around for the regional qualifiers. He had to accept an award there. And so I thought for sure that RNG, that this would be the best chance to beat them, that maybe they'd have another slow start like they did at MSI, maybe take a bit of a breather or a bit of a mini vacation before attending Worlds, but they just picked up right where they left off at the LPL playoffs, and that's what's terrifying to me.
You understand that you're supposed to save the excuses for when they drop their game, right, FLICKR, and you don't give them after the first win.
Imagine if
No
they would have done it the third time.
I just think that this is a lineup that multiple players generate their own lead. Karsa is capable of generating his lead. You can see Uzi generates his own lead. Ming can do it as well. And that becomes very scary when they start, you know, teaming up, getting on the map at the same time and just dragging you everywhere. I mean, there's not much else to say apart from the fact that this was just dominant on the bottom side of the map.
Uzi's gold leads at 10, 15, and 20 are larger than almost any other team's gold lead at those moments. He got solo turret gold on the bot lane. He got solo turret gold on the top lane. He was 3 kills early on in the game. At one point, Uzi had 4,500 gold when Sneaky had 2,500 gold. Yeah. It was a 2,000 gold lead. It was insane.
And I mean, Xiaohu stole one of his kills in the bottom lane. That was Uzi's kill. What is he doing down there?
Well, I actually really like the point that you brought up when we were watching the game, which is talking about, you know, how do you decide to attack Uzi? Because again, if we look at the blueprint, when RNG did fall, especially in groups back at MSI, it was TL deciding to go toe-to-toe and to try to find a lane priority. And if you leave Karsa open, yeah, that sounds so detrimental, but that might actually be the best way, because then at least you don't have a dominant lane phase.
And this is what I keep saying. Karsa has a very expensive build. She has a lot of flexibility when she gets to her items, but if you keep her at the 2-item mark, you can have very good laning phases. We keep talking about things like the Varus, things like the Ashe, that you can throw it, outrange it, and has similar utility throughout the mid-game as some of the power picks. Hell, even pick Ezreal into it and throw that curveball. I just don't think that you can go toe-to-toe to this guy, and you're like, I'm going to outscale you. Right. That doesn't sound right to me if you're sneaky.
No, and not in the face of Uzi, of all players, right? MasterCard player of the game this time around for Uzi. Of course, when you build a 2K gold lead at 10 minutes, no surprise, you're going to pick up this honors. But I have to bring something up. We almost scoffed a little bit at the Draven ban thrown forward by RNG. And while, yes, that may be a little bit, you know, you could argue that's too much respect given to Sneaky. It's an interesting thought that to say, hey, we're not going to give you your one opportunity to win the lane against us.
And it was also the priority pick of the Alistar when we've seen other teams go for the blind pick of the Taliyah, because they know that Uzi's their ADC, that he has multiple picks that he can play and just dominate the lane phase. So it was very clear that with a Braum, a Draven, and an Alistar priority, that RNG were like, no, we are going to win the bot lane.
Yeah, and I think they win both sides of the early-late matchup. If Uzi has the early game carry, he'll smash you before you have a chance. And if he has a late game carry, he's going to go even until he smashes you later. That's why they've won Spring Split, Summer Split, MSI, Rift Rivals, Asia Games with Uzi, because no one has been able to solve that problem this year, and he is having a legendary season.
Very much so, and there is loads of experience on this team behind him. We talk about Ming, you talk about Letme and the prowess of some of these guys, but what I want to talk about is how C9 played into these dudes, because on the opposite side, you have rookies in Licorice, you have rookies in Zeyzal. Blabber hasn't made it to the stage yet, but how do we feel about the way that C9 stacked up against the front runner, the favorite of the tournament by many people's standards?
I think there's windows. I mean, you point to Licorice, he's able to get himself a solo kill. He did have pressure in some of the lanes. I think you also have to say that, you know, potentially Zeyzal got banned out of a couple of his very good champions, so he's not going to have that laning phase. And he had a lot of pressure from Karsa. They did have a collapse onto the Gromp. You know, the right ideas are there for the team, but once again, you're going up against the best of the world. This is a flexible RNG as well, when in the past they have been a linear RNG. So I do think that, you know, this is going to be a tough team to beat, but they showed some windows of good play.
Yeah, without a doubt. Your thoughts on Licorice in particular?
I mean, I think Licorice looked good. I also don't think he was able to transition his advantage the way that you would have wanted him to keep the game even, and the rest of Cloud9 looked pretty poor.
All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A tough loss for Cloud9. The reigning champions, Gen G, are back to defend their title as they start their Worlds run against EVE's Vitality after the break. We'll see you then.
Sneaky in some trouble, no flash available means he is gone. And first blood goes over to RNG, and it goes to Uzi.
Perfect illustration of what we mentioned is Licorice looking for this.
Licorice wants to grab the solo kill, and into the grinder you go. Tragedy for Cloud9 as they can't find the first kill, but Ming's going to be the consolation prize. They need this Urgot to be so far ahead because bottom lane just keeps finding trouble after trouble. 2 items fully completed on top of having the QSS already bought as well, and Zeyzal is gone. Karsa also having to skirt around the back lines now. RNG have not won the fight just yet, but they take down Jensen. Nexus turret number 1 under siege. They found the damage onto Sneaky. No chance to even participate in League of Legends this game, as RNG will find the win.